This is a disclaimer. This podcast features 4 professional idiots who share their insights and anecdotes. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. This podcast represents the opinions of the guests and should not be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice.
Levy does a great job because he talks like a normal human and makes and cracks jokes that are hilarious. Whereas most of these guys that do these recaps and it's like, well, this is book and theory and this is this and that. And it's just like, I just want to fucking shoot myself in the head. But when Levy does the recaps, it's like, this is entertainment. I'm learning and I'm having fun at the same time. You know, I'm laughing out loud at some of the shit that he says in the moment. And I'm like, you know, yeah, he just really choked that guy in his position. I mean, well, it was voluntary. You know, they had a safe word. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you just said that on a YouTube video as talking about what? Chess. I mean, good God. So,
dude, chess smack talkers are crazy.
I know, they're terrible. Well, when they do their interviews after they've just absolutely destroyed someone, well, I said, yeah, I just felt like throughout the entire game that White was just better, you know, all the way through. And, you know, I thought, you know, after this move that, you know, White was just winning and that there was nothing that Black could do. And then just so matter of fact, like basically this guy just said, I fucked him up from move 1 and then at move 25, I had the win, and finally he realized it on move 33. He finally quit. So yeah, he probably should have quit after move 26. I mean, really, at that point, White's winning, and there's no way back. They just talk like that. Like, oh my God, it's not like any sport that I've ever seen.
Savage. It's like Muhammad Ali levels of smash talk in chess, but that's just
I know.
Chess game after this. I'm right around 1200 on the chess app as well. So if you want to have a little sparring match.
Which chess app do you play on?
I primarily on chess.com app.
Perfect. Chess.com. That's exactly where I'm at.
Nice.
All right. It's a date. No, I mean let's play. That was awkward.
Yeah. No, absolutely. What's your username on that thing?
Oh God, now I'm gonna have to open another app that I don't know. Well, okay.
All right, we can talk after. I can tell Dan's getting horny for it.
Oh, I'm ready. I've been waiting for 15,
oh, it's my fault.
minutes.
I take full responsibility.
No. Take more time. It's good.
Intro, go. Go. Music, whatever, go.
Welcome back, listeners. It's Sunday. It's a good day. And we have a special episode today because we have, I am Dan Casey, MD, your local doctor idiot for our podcast. Thank you for joining. I am joined today by 2 Esquires, or 1 soon to be, Patrick Casey and Alex K. Pat, say hi.
Well, hello. I am a 20-year attorney, award-winning trial attorney.
Patrick, you don't have to do an introduction. They know you. Well,
am I? What? Wait,
I
mean,
they've
well,
met
but what if they click on podcast 3 and they didn't watch podcast 1 because podcast
Who does that? I'm sure someone does. You're probably right.
But I mean, the title here is, you know, that fucking guy.
Hey, that's my job.
I know. You handed the mic over to me. You got to be careful when you do that.
Yeah,
I might not relinquish it. So that fucking guy episode, you click on it. I mean, that's the one that may be the first one somebody watches. Jesus.
All right, we'll go with your self-important introduction. Go for it.
Fuck you. I'm already done with my self-important introduction. It's back to you, Mr. Casey. Oh, I should say Dr. Casey.
Mr. Casey is my son, which is weird to think about. Like Nicole, my wife, says Mr. Casey when talking to Ronan sometimes, and it really throws me off. I'm like, huh? Oh, him. Oh, that's technically correct. Alex, go ahead. Say hi to the listeners.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex. I'm the person who previously was trying to become a scientist and then decided, you know what, attorney instead. And that's where I'm at. I'm mostly done with law school and hopefully will actually, be a bar certified attorney soon enough.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. I did have a question because I wanted to flush it out last time, but I think we got onto good topics and good discussions. Why are there two bars for patent law or for what you're planning to do?
So
It's a good question.
the way that it works for the patent bar is that it's mostly a quiz about how well you know something called the MPEP, the Manual of Patent Examination Practice. So it's basically the giant book of nonsense that the patent examiners use in order to actually decide whether or not you deserve a patent or not. And it's kind of a part and parcel to the fact that the way that we litigate patents in like courts normally is very different from how you handle determining whether or not someone gets a patent. So they have different standards of review, different things that they're looking at for validity of a patent in court versus at the examiner's office. And so it's this full separate book of standards about that they quiz you on. And so it is just like a fully separate from the normal court system set of standards. And so you really have to know two fully separate standards. Like that's part of why.
It's so weird to me.
Yeah, it leads to a lot of stupid bullshit. So it leads to stuff where like, oh, the patent examiner says that this is totally fine, but I get it in front of the judge and they're like, oh, this is obvious. And it's like, but the examiner did a whole thing about why this isn't obvious. And they did an 8-hour-long search into the literature to figure out that this wasn't obvious. And you're just saying that it is, judge? And the judge just says, yeah, seems obvious to me. It's usually much more scientific than that. They usually like have some experts come in, say a bunch of things, but the thing is that you're allowed to pay experts in court, unlike other witnesses. And so, you get someone who agrees with you a little bit more about why this invention is obvious, and they formulate a reasonable argument about it, and then yeah, it's a whole thing.
And I always say it depends on what the judge ate for breakfast or what the law says. So
that's right, I remember that.
But is putting it in your terms, Dan, what he just explained, it's the difference between passing your boards and a specialty board.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, as complicated as patent law is and as complicated as intellectual property litigation is, you can distill it down into more or less it's like a very specific specialty, and also one that's fairly underserved. So kudos to you for going into something where you're going to make seriously large piles of cash and be bored to tears.
Well,
I feel like Alex would be okay with that.
It's unless you're like, really interested in the thing that bores a lot of people to tears. And, I have mentally tricked myself into enjoying it. So I think I'll enjoy my piles of cash and some fun.
And the analogy I have for it is basically I'm an MD. I'm an allopathic doctor. There are DOs who are osteopathic doctors. And when we get to our boards, they're called step exams through med school and whatnot. But like when you start to take, I think it's either step 3 or maybe it is boards. I forget now because it's a little behind me. But basically, I take one test. And then I'm good. DOs have to take their own osteopathic test and the regular boards, the regular step 3 exam, which is kind of bullshit because at this point in time in medical training, DOs and MDs are basically the same. If anything, DOs have more, oddly enough, musculoskeletal training. It's coming from being a sports and musculoskeletal specialist that it's ridiculous they have to take 2 tests. But so to my DO colleagues, my heart goes out to you. I'm sorry you have to pay, and it's extortion money. It's extortion money for how much we have to pay to register for these exams that are required for us to basically continue practicing or continue in our training. I've asked many mentors, and I'm like, how is this not extortion? And they all get really uncomfortable because they're supposed to say the politically correct thing, which is like, oh, it's the system, and they're like, it's kind of extortion. So.
I mean, how else are you going to keep the poors from, high-paying, important careers?
Well, right. I do think that there is, that feeling, especially when you're first starting out, that you've got to do this and it's expensive. I get that because I remember, how the heck am I going to pay for my continuing legal education? I'm trying to pay my mortgage on my education and eat and feed myself and my wife and my children. I get where that comes from or where you perceive that. But the reality is it's there for a very good purpose, and that is to prevent or to try to eliminate as many bad doctors and bad lawyers, believe that or not.
I think that's fair. I think that's actually
Yeah.
pretty valid. I think that financial barriers are kind of ambiguous though, because like Alex said, if you're poor, I mean, here's the thing: it's like we're all in debt. It's just, are you in more debt? And
Right.
I don't think financial barriers are as strong as essentially like the medical education training itself. But that's getting aside. Fun fact: I would be an expert witness if I was called to testify, or I've been deposed in the past. I haven't been sued, fortunately, but I've been deposed. And
My dad also did a ton of expert witness stuff when he was a doctor as well, and you can make a lot of good money doing that, like being there for depositions. Dan, it's a thing.
it's just not something that never occurred to me. It was like, I'm an expert. Oh.
If there's people that come to you that are injured from like a personal injuries type of situation, you are going to encounter PI lawyers, and that is the most likely avenue you would go down. And having integrity in that process will get you hired by both sides.
Yeah, I was gonna say So I'm a concussion specialist, so workman's comp cases are aplenty. So I haven't built or really started a concussion clinic yet. My goal is to, because, well, I mean, yeah, you think of concussions in sports, but concussions happen in car accidents. Concussions happen on the job. In fact, they probably happen more often. And I see more patients in that way, at least in my current area where I'm weighted, literally location where I'm working. But those are pretty hairy cases. And the one thing that I always thought was kind of funny is that there's there's chronic concussion, which is basically it's not responsive to treatment. There is a direct relationship between workman's comp cases and chronic concussion versus acute concussion. So you can kind of see where that's going.
Yeah, I get that.
Getting off topic. Basically, the episode, as you've already sort of spoiled, Patrick, is that fucking guy. Everybody knows one.
Me.
Everybody has one. That was you today. And so, and I don't want it to be like, I want it to be fun stories. They can be work related. They don't have to be. It could be interpersonal. They could just be that guy you met on the street. Point is, I feel like this is a nice, relatable topic because no matter what line of work you're in, no matter what area of life you're in, we all encounter this person. And there's those guys. For me, to kind of just head it off, like that fucking guy is in health insurance in America. Talking with Alex about this earlier, in that like health insurance, when people talk about like, what, you're a doctor, why don't you understand like how my health insurance works? I'm like, first off, there are dozens of different health insurance plans. And secondly, they change every year on January 1st. Those goalposts move. Whether they're related to evidence-based medicine or not, changes happen on costs, on medicines, what's their preferred medicine for this treatment. Like, those goalposts move to keep you and me in the dark, to keep doctors and patients, not sure about what's going on. And then generally speaking, health insurance is just complicated in America. From deductibles to basically like necessity of treatment, determinations. That fucking guy for me is just prior auths. Oh my god, fuck prior authorizations. I hate them because it's just like that meme I see. It's your doctor give you this prescription. You take it to your pharmacist. Your pharmacist says, "Oh yeah, your doctor says you need this. Let's call your insurance." Hello, insurance. Doctor says patient needs this medication. Insurance says, do they? Let's ask their doctor, and let's make their doctor fill out paperwork that they've already filled out saying they need it. Like it's just mind-blowing to me. Like that's the system. So it boils my blood, especially when it's just like, this is very obvious. Did you read my note? Did you even look at the documentation I sent when I ordered this? Obviously this is covered. And they just like to create hurdles because they don't want to pay for things, or at least that's how it comes across. And I'm sure to some extent that's the way it's designed. So for me, as an overarching career aspect, dealing with health insurance is that fucking guy story. But I kind of want to hear, you're two lawyers, soon to be lawyer. You guys have got to have something. Like, I know Patrick has dozens, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Pat.
All right, I'm gonna actually take this opportunity to kind of throw it at Alex, and maybe you're. I'm gonna give Alex the first shot at this. That fucking guy in class that always asks the question. Yeah,
Yeah.
it crosses over. It crosses over to
The
medical
Gunners.
school. But I know how easy was it to identify that fucking guy when you started your your 1L or your first year.
The smuggest human being that I have met in quite some time. I would say I met at law school. And he, of course, was so self-important that he felt like every question that he had was the kind of question that was worthy of bringing to the class so that he would seem like he was participating a lot. And none of his questions were that substantive or that interesting. And it really kind of belied the whole point of being in these classes, which is the point is to learn to answer that question for yourself, because not all of them have an answer. That's part of the law. And it's why every lawyer I know, when you ask them a question, says,
Exactly.
well, it depends. And it's because there's nuance. But this guy never learned that, I don't think. And he has continued to be that way from what I hear from other people, because thankfully, him and I are not into the same kind of law. Thank God. I got to not have him in classes after 1L year. But
the unfortunate thing for me was that there were 3 of those people in my class. Now they were 3 different types. There's the one you're just describing who essentially thinks that he is a sexual intellectual, aka a fucking know-it-all. He knew everything. And therefore he was going to demonstrate that. And he's got serious self-esteem problems. Maybe his mother didn't hug him. I don't know. But then there's that gal who clearly doesn't get it, and just doesn't get it every time you're in class. Like every lesson, every brief, every case, they just completely. How do you miss the point every single time? And asks there's no such thing as dumb questions in the law, but seriously, I mean, did you read the freaking case? Did you figure out what the holding of it was? Do you understand, when the professor put the syllabus together and this is the topic of conversation, that this is what we're trying to be looking for? Like, we're talking negligence, so we're talking about duties of, and of due care, and you go, and it's a completely out of left field question.
I had a person in my 1L law school class. I will not name any names in this situation because it has, within our own law school, been a belabored point. And if anybody hears this, you know who I'm talking about. And, I've met the guy since and he was fine. But, he blew a cold call so much harder than anybody I have ever met in law school ever. And I think he set the standard for the entire 1L class and everybody knew about it and basically said, I do not want to be that guy. It was in our civil procedure class. He gets asked a direct question by the professor. It's the kind of thing where if you had even been following along as we were talking a little bit about the case leading up to it, you would have been able to read ahead and be like, this is what he's looking for. He was just asking for the fact.
That's just like you read the freaking brief and like who the parties are and what happened, not
exactly
like what the decision was or any substantive analysis. No.
And this was like our second or third class, so like I get it if you don't have like that level of preparation at the ready, like you didn't know how to prepare for these ahead of time. But you'd had enough time that maybe you should have done a little bit better than this. But regardless, the worst part was that he basically just admitted to not having read it, and the professor was like, "Well, that's great, but we're here now, and I'm not going to just let you off the hook.
Yeah,
go ahead and answer this question." And so he starts flipping through it and trying to very slowly and painfully answer this question. The professor asks one more question, and knowing that he had not done any reading, he's sticking with him for just a little bit longer to kind of make him wriggle a little bit. His response to that was, I'm going to go ahead and make fun of this professor's football team in a casual way as though we're buddy-buddy in this moment. Because he had revealed that he was like, I'm a big Michigan State fan. And this guy's like, no, I'm going to say I'm Ohio State because he is an Ohio State guy, and then just like trying to start that fight. And the professor's just like, what the, like, doesn't say this in these words, but his face says it all of, what the fuck are you doing right now? Are you really trying to poke the bear in this moment where you're the one that screwed this up? And just kept digging this hole deeper and deeper for himself. This horrendous cold call. Oh,
That's pretty bad.
That's another type of individual, the unprepared one. That was the third one that I was going for. The one, not the one that's unprepared, but the one who's done clearly knows the facts of the case, clearly understands that, but goes off into the woods and talks about something in the case that has absolutely nothing to do with what the point of the discussion is. Yeah, goes off into the reeds or the woods, and the professor has to go, well, yeah, okay, there is this sideline thing, but we're not here for the sideline. We're talking about this is the substance. So what do you think about this? And they have no idea because they already went out into the woods and just looked at the reeds and completely missed all of the trees that they walked past as they did that. So anyways, that's how we talk, the forest for the trees. I say that all the time. And I'm sure that comes up in the doctor's context too. You're missing the forest for the trees. You're getting too locked in on one or two specific things. And you get lost in the woods. Anywho, so that fucking guy for me, and I won't name any names, but if anybody from the practices family law in the greater Mankato area might have an idea who I'm speaking about, and if that is the case, then I want to be very clear that this is all my opinion. None of these are factual statements. So now that I avoided getting sued, so I was in court.
There'll be a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode.
There you go. In a county nearby. And prior to this hearing, I had tried a case against an attorney who left this law firm to go do other things. We tried the case, and the judge just failed to address a specific issue that was in our pleadings. There was testimony taken on it, and the judge just missed it. And that's okay. Judges make mistakes. That's why you have post-trial motions. So I throw one in there. I've got one paragraph post-trial motion. I got to fix this thing, Judge. You got to, assign this debt. You got to, who's paying for it? Because if it's 100% assigned to my client, okay, fine. And she'll be upset, but it is what it is. Or we're splitting it between the parties, or he's got to pay it. There's really just a finite amount of options that you have in divvying up debts and assets. So the person who is this person's supervisor files a responsive motion and asks for all kinds of relief that were never raised at trial, and they couldn't possibly be addressed by the court. So I sent a courtesy email to this attorney because I knew them quite well, and I felt like we had a good relationship. And so I just told him, I said, hey, here's the thing. None of that was brought up at trial at all. It wasn't in your original pleadings. There's no notice of this. I don't want to get to bogged down in what are called sanction motions, where I can ask them to pay for attorney's fees. Even the attorney to pay for the attorney's fees because their motion's frivolous. And I'm saying this motion's frivolous. I get a response at 8:30 in the morning after I just sent that email at 8:15 asking if I had been drinking.
Oh, God.
And I responded, no. If you do not withdraw this at any point before the motion hearing, I will request a sanction hearing. So you've got to make a special request from the court for that. You have to give notice to the opposing counsel and give them, and once you actually file the motion, you got to give them like 3 weeks to respond. So it's a pretty pain in the butt process. And as of today, as we sit here, I've never done it.
What was the tone of that email? Was there anything more? Was there any more context? Like, it wasn't buddy-buddy, right?
Oh, no. No. Well, he wasn't buddy-buddy to me. No, there was no context. It was like, have you been drinking this morning? ? That was the full response. And I went, and it wasn't like, haha, kidding, haha. It was like, no, dude, you can't do this. And if you want to play the game like that, that's fine. I'm going to get the motion. And so he doesn't withdraw it. And the day before the hearing, I call the court up for a date. Or I don't know, maybe my legal assistant or paralegal did. I don't know. And so I get to the hearing and I approach him at counsel's table and I said, I have this hearing date. Here's the date. And then we talk. Then he starts to read me the rules of civil procedure on the motion hearing date and the notice I have to give. And I'm just standing there looking at him going, I'm giving you actual notice now, and I will give it to you again when I file the motion. I think I know the rules. And so I sit down knowing that now who knows what's going to happen in this hearing. Am I now going to have to just spend the whole entire time talking about how this is a frivolous motion and he's violating the rules? I've asked for my rule, blah, 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 motion hearing, and you can't give him this relief because it was never there. So what does the guy do? He interrupts me because it's my motion. He steps in right away and says, Judge, we are not pursuing, our motion on paragraph, 2 and 3. We're just asking you deny my motion. Meaning my motion. The opposing counsel is asking to deny my motion, which he's going to argue that anyways. But he is withdrawing the sanctionable motion. And I go, oh, thank God. So I can just talk about the substance, right? And so we argue. We both argue, and I get up and I go to shake his hand, and I say, you know what? Thank you for doing the right thing. I really appreciate it. Just like this, just like I'm saying it right now, in front of this guy. And so we're still in the courtroom at counsel's table, a couple feet from each other. He gets in my face and puts his finger in my chest and says, fuck you. Fuck you.
Good Lord.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Loud enough that everybody in the courtroom can hear it.
What? Oh
yeah.
no.
So we're off the record, but yeah, everybody knows that this is happening. And so now
the judge has got to be pissed.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to go into that conversation. That's a private one. But so you know me, Dan.
Oh, I know you.
People get angry. People get upset with me. Everything slows down. I get real quiet. And as he's walking out, super upset, I keep saying,
wait for it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing the right thing. As he keeps going, he keeps saying, fuck you. Every time he says, fuck you, I say, thank you so much for doing the right thing. And we get out in the hallway, and he comes right back into my face. It's like, you're a fucking asshole. You fuck yourself. And as he's walking away, I said, thank you for doing the right thing, sir. I really appreciate it. You have a great day. That fucking guy that cannot keep his cool, that has always has a meltdown of all these lawyers that have meltdowns. If things aren't going to go their way, or you don't agree with the way that they want you to agree with, and not because they're right, but because they've given their clients unreasonable expectations, that guy, that lawyer.
And I also like that you're that guy that actually kills them with kindness, because that's exactly what's going to,
because that's going to upset them more than if I got upset with them. They want me to get upset. That's the reaction that they want. That guy wants you to get angry with them. And you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not playing your game.
Quick recap.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, you sent an email out of courtesy saying that, hey, I'm just asking, this is going to happen. Can you take this out because it doesn't belong? His response is to ask if you're drinking in what is essentially a professional forum. And then his next response is,
I got the motion hearing. I came up to him in court and said, hey, are you going to proceed with this motion? I got that sanction hearing. I'd really appreciate it if you just withdraw the motion. And he starts to try to throw the rule book at me.
That's right. He asked you, do you even know what you're doing? Basically, he just looks at you and goes,
more or less.
Do you know how these rules work? He actually do. Well, actually.
Yeah, he had the rule book in front of him and picked it up and like demonstratively did that. But yeah, keep going.
And then loses his shit in court in front of everyone because you were polite and said thanks for doing the right thing.
Yep.
I mean, this sounds like brinksmanship to me. It sounds like he didn't think you'd actually go through with it. And so he was like banking on that. And then when it looked like you actually were, he was at the last minute like, well, crap, now I can't get away with it. And then pulled the motion.
Right. Well, this individual likes to do that kind of thing where pull crap, call them on their crap, and then you're the problem. It's called gaslighting. It's typical of narcissists. So
Right.
that's exactly what that was. And this is the same lawyer who, on the record, called a female opposing counsel, see you next Tuesday.
Oh, jeez.
On the record.
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm not sure why something hasn't been done in that regard. But most of the legal profession is self-policed, so I know the opposing counsel really well, and while she was very upset by it, she knows that whatever she complains about is because we're in such a small legal community, it's going to really have no effect other than to make things worse. So she just let it go because she's the bigger person, and yeah, I got a lot of respect for her. So
Well, good. I mean, not to cheapen what you just said, but it doesn't sound like it's hard to be a bigger person with this individual.
Oh, you just hit the nail on the head with that one. That's for sure.
So I have a quick, to keep this more. I mean, that's intense and that's kind of funny, but it's not, funny. So I'm going to tell a story really quick where I was that fucking guy because I was an idiot, and that's generally the theme of the podcast. So I was, I think, an intern still, but I was like at the end of my intern year in residency. And the way intern year goes for all kind of, I talked about this briefly last episode. Generally speaking, everybody does an intern year where you learn the meat and potatoes of medicine. And in primary care, because most of our work is outpatient, our residency just happened to have a lot of inpatient, meaning working in the hospital, working in with patients staying in the hospital type settings for like 10 and a half of the 12 months of the year. So it's exhausting. Intern year is probably the hardest year on average for most programs. And it's brutal. It's 80 hours a week on average, sometimes, maybe less than that. Working in the hospital, going in, maybe never even seeing the sun, going in at dark, leaving at sunset, those types of basically days for 6 days a week. And for those of you who have ever heard the term golden or black weekends, ACGME, which is the governing board for residencies, gives us a whole 4 days off a month guaranteed. So that's 4 days that you're guaranteed to get off. And if you happen to take a week off for vacation at an allowed, which is another thing, you can only take vacations on certain months, maybe 3 of them, then you lose one of those days off. So goldens and blacks are like, oh, I have 2 days off in a row. That's a golden weekend. A normal person's weekend is a golden weekend because then you're working 12 days in a row. And a black is just that. And a gray weekend is basically you have 1 day off. So it's exhausting. I was at the tail end of my intern year, and I was doing an admission. Because as the interns, you're kind of the workhorse of the team. You go, you see the patient, you talk to him, you get the whole history, you write the H&P, you put in the orders. You do 95% of it because ultimately you need to know how to do everything by the time you're a supervisor. So you do everything. You take in patients. I saw this homeless patient, which is not an uncommon thing in the ER. Admitting this patient for XYZ, I don't remember. That's not important. Basically, I got like 4 hours of sleep the prior night. I am on day 11 of 12, and I am dead from the neck up. And I'm doing this intake, and I don't remember. Like, you generally ask people, like, I didn't know he was homeless, but you generally ask, like, oh, okay, so do you live in a complex? Do you live in a house, an apartment, what have you, if it's relevant? And he goes, oh, no. I live in a bush. And I don't know to this day what spirit took hold of me, but I asked, which bush? And this nurse, I knew I screwed up because this nurse that was like to the left of me typing on a computer, I could just see out of my peripherals, she stopped what she was doing and like turned and looked at me. And it was like, oh God. Okay. And he's pretty out of it. He's not feeling well. He's like, oh yeah, the one on this avenue. Like, oh, okay. I know that bush. And I live near that bush. And I remember going back to my team and kind of giving the history. And of course I let it slip. I was like, so I asked him where he lives and he said in a bush. And I asked him which bush. And his my supervising resident, who's a buddy of mine, Nav, we were good friends. He was like, "Oh no, oh that's it. If that was me, I'd be like, who is this guy? Get rid of him. This is not my doctor." And my supervising physician, our attending physician, was like, I can see you asking that. Like, in my defense, I was exhausted. But I still don't know what possessed me to ask which Bush. He's homeless. That's all I needed to know. That's the only checkbox I needed. But in my line of thought, that was like the next question. So I was that guy.
I mean, you're just asking out of concern. If something doesn't go right, you want to be able to know where you can find him, and you got to know which bush on which, block and avenue. I mean, seriously.
Oh man, I wish that was more relevant, but no, that's not how it works. It's maybe one of those things you have to be in medicine to really get it. That's not a valuable piece of information. And that was very much a sleep deprived, off the cuff, like, which bush? Like, the nurse what I didn't add is the nurse pulled me aside. And after I was like finishing up and getting ready to put in admission orders, she pulls me to the side and she goes, "Did you really need to ask which bush?" I was like, "No, it just kind of felt natural." I walked away because I knew what I had done. So I was that guy in that situation. I guess kind of since I'm already rolling with it, the other story I have is about, of course, a patient. I have dozens of them, but I'm going to stick to this one because I have never been, I am very cordial. I'm very professional. Even when people are being absolutely terrible to me, I always keep decorum. I'm very, very easy to get along with, and I make a lot of effort to meet patients halfway, to hear their concerns, and to really validate them and make them feel like they're being listened to, because that's not something that happens in our healthcare system a lot. Part of it's the system's fault. Part of it is doctors allow themselves to get into that pattern of not actually treating people and only treating disease. And so, and my soapbox and whatnot. But so basically, I had this patient in the hospital setting. I think I was actually a second year at the time because I didn't originally admit him. He was admitted, I think, for heart failure. And so it's serious. It's not something that's like, oh, he's going to die today. But it's like, okay, if you do nothing, he's going to die eventually. And so we treat him. He's for what we call a heart failure exacerbation. And he is improving. It takes 7 days or 6 days. It was a while. It was taking longer than it should. And so, of course, some workup went into that and those types of things. But he's going the right direction. He is, for lack of a better term, an asshole. From day one, he is fighting us. Like, suddenly he's in pain and he needs pain meds. Suddenly he has, all these issues. He can't stay in his bed. He needs a new bed. Like, the frivolous thing, like, sir, you're in a hospital. This isn't a hotel. It just like, oh, the food, and oh, I liked the other nurse I had yesterday. Why do I have this nurse today? Just, if there was something to complain about, he complained about it. And your doctor's not the person to complain about food to. I just want listeners to know that. I know most of you probably realize that. I don't know or have any control over what is going on in the hospital's cafeteria. And nothing I would ever... No.
You're not a chef, man?
No, I'm not. And nothing I would say or could do would change anything. I have no influence in that. Just because I'm a doctor doesn't mean I run the world. And so, basically, we get to day 7. This guy is generally doing much better. And we're talking like, okay, we'll probably be able to discharge you in just kind of spitballing 1 or 2 days. And he's like, no, I have to go today. It has to be today. I'm leaving today. Okay, why? Well, I have to go and check on my cat. Like, okay, that's actually a valid concern, sure. I mean, you've been here a week. Do you have anyone else you can call to check on your pet? Well, yeah, obviously other people have been checking on it. Okay. That's good. You didn't leave your pet to die. That's great. But why can't they keep doing that? Because I miss them and I need to see them. Sir, you were actively dying when we saw you, when we brought you into the hospital. You're still not better. We really need to fine tune and get you, feeling better. So basically this discussion just becomes circular. It's just the same exact thing. And eventually I feel like I've talked some sense into him. He's unhappy because he's always unhappy. And I go back to our call room. And just the way our hospital was built, our call room was like a half mile. We were literally the opposite side of the hospital from where everything else happens. So it's a hike. By the time I get back to the call room, I get a page. Pagers, I don't know any other health profession. maybe other than drug dealer, where pagers are still a thing. But I get a page, I answer, he's left AMA, which is against medical advice. And just a few pointers to the audience. If you leave AMA, your insurance won't pay for your hospital stay because you left against medical advice. It's a cop-out, but it's also a fair cop-out because you didn't do what the doctors recommended. And he leaves AMA, and I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. That's his choice. Just make sure he signs the waiver of the paperwork, and we do this right. As far as like a liability type thing, that we've explained the risks to him, and the risks are death, and make sure he understands that. I get a page. I'm not exaggerating. Maybe 6 minutes later, I'm already I got another page to go do an admission, or I had another admission pending. So I'm heading back to the ER, or heading down to the ER to do this admission. By the time I get there, so basically it takes the time it took me to walk a quarter of a mile. So I don't know, 6 minutes, probably accurate. I get that second page, and I'm in the ER, and I have an admission. I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. You know this guy? No.
Wait, so he left against medical advice and then came back later.
6 minutes later. He
Still.
literally got... So there's I forget what it's called. It's like the patient lounge. It's a waiting area for you to get an Uber or whatever. He got there, and he was so out of breath, and he realized, oh, I can't leave. I'll die. And he shambled back to the ER, and because he literally was in the... It was 7 minutes. Because he was already in the system, and maybe it was longer than that. I probably exaggerate in the lens of memory, and looking back on it, it felt like it was only 7 minutes. Because he couldn't shamble that fast. But basically, he went back to the ER, but because he was just admitted, the ER doc was like, well, obviously he needs to be admitted. He wasn't supposed to leave to begin with. They basically saw him, checked him in, had all his information, and called me. That was the time it took. And so they're like, well, you have a bounce back. It's hard to call that because he never left the building. And a bounce back is if anybody in 30 days gets discharged and comes back for the same reason, they automatically go to your team. They don't go to a new doctor who takes them in. Because usually in hospital systems, there's multiple admission teams or multiple inpatient teams if they're large enough. And so I'm a generally nice person. I'm generally a very, very understanding, very sympathetic person. I go up to this man who is in a pod that's pretty open. It's just an area of the ER where you're surrounded by, they have multiple people in the same room divided by a curtain. This is actually not like that. This is open pods, just rooms without walls with curtains in between them. And I am furious. This guy, I've fought this guy every step of the way in his best interests for the last 6 or 7 days. And I go up to him, and he's already kind of got the woe is me, oh, I'm sorry, I know I did something bad. I know. Sir, are you trying to die? And that's what I say. That's the first thing out of my mouth. I don't remember his name, but are you trying to kill yourself? And the two nurses to my right, and this is actually the same area that from the prior story where I asked about the bush. These two nurses out of my peripheral are talking, and I see them just one has a clipboard up and is reading, and they lowers the clipboard, and both stare at me because doctors don't typically talk to patients like that. And he hangs his head. He's like, no. Do you want to get better? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. I don't ask another thing. I don't say shit. I just go, ugh, and I walk away, and I'm like, I'm admitting you. And the nurses, one of the nurses kind of jogged after me because I'm, speed walking, I'm anger marching at this point. It was like, what the hell was that? I was like, he left AMA when he was going to get discharged tomorrow, and he came back after 5 minutes. She just starts giggling and walks away, just so she had some context. And it's just one of those things, I think that's the only time I've kind of lost my shit. And it's the history was all the same. I knew this guy. He was already on our service. There was nothing else to say. I apologized later, actually. I talked to him, and I said I should have lost my temper, to kind of sort of cover my base from a liability standpoint, but more just to not have that on my conscience, because I don't like snapping at people. I really don't like losing my temper, and I very rarely do. It takes so much to get me there. Oh my God. So he was that fucking guy for me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen you genuinely angry ever in the time that I've known you.
Yeah, typically
I usually just
it's our brother.
our other brother, and the one not on the podcast. I generally just get quiet. Like if I'm actually upset, I just get quiet and I don't say anything, and I just kind of cool off and let it diffuse. But if I actually get mad, I don't know what's the expression. There's three things people fear. It's like the a storm at sea, a night with a full moon, and the anger of a gentle man, or the anger of a gentle Dan.
Perfect.
Yeah, I feel like I don't lose my shit that often. So when I do, it's a spectacle.
So there's one thing I just really can't abide by are people, and the older I get, the worse I am with it. Is people who ask you a question, and when you're a lawyer, you know, here's the short answer, but I'm going to give you the long answer too. Essentially, is so I think this is what happens, and here's why. And you immediately get interrupted with, "But didn't you just hear me say?" Blah blah blah. And I said, I stop him and I said, "Do you want to hear the answer to my question? I heard everything you said, and I can repeat it back to you word for word exactly how you said it. I'm that attentive. But if you want my advice, and let's not forget this is a free consultation, then you need to let me answer the question."
You could always just threaten to start charging at that point.
No, I can't threaten to start charging. There's no attorney-client relationship. But what I can say is, and I have said, I said, if you don't want to hear what I have to say, then there's no sense in us continuing the conversation. Go talk to somebody who will tell you what you want to hear. No, I was just saying that's not why you called me, is to get what is your opinion on my legal issue from, and it's usually as slanted their direction as far as possible. So
Well, isn't that just the whole point? Is like I get that all the time in every like multiple encounters. I don't think people want to hear your opinion. I think they want to hear their opinion out of your mouth, or basically, or whatever favors them. That's what they just want to hear you say, and then they try to reframe the question and change little tidbits or ask like, "Oh, but what about this part? Yeah, I heard you say that." No, no to the rest of your sentence, and this is what's going to happen. Like I'm not that obviously, you know.
not that direct or that
Yeah.
abrupt. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I am though. I am though. I don't have that bedside manner. I have zero of it, because most oftentimes people come to me in the most broken shape of their life, whether it's addiction or whether it's the loss of their family dynamic as it was. Sometimes it's sudden. Sometimes it has been going on and has been traumatic for a long time. And so these folks, I've learned, you have to be patient with them. But when you go through something like that, your personality is personified in exponentially. And so whatever flaws you have show very clearly to someone. So when I've got somebody who likes to talk over me or tell me how to do my job, those are people I want them off my phone as quickly as possible, because there's plenty of lawyers that will take on those clients and be their mouthpiece, but I'm not a mouthpiece. I'm not just going to, regurgitate what my client says. I'm going to provide the best case, defense, perspective possible. But yeah, people just are
Well, people
rude.
suck.
Well, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I don't know.
Alex, I wanted to hear stories from you.
Since we're on that guy, we're on the question of like that guy clients and that guy patients. I think I've got one to run with on that kind of topic, which is generally dishonesty from a client or a patient is just the least productive thing possible. It's just been like even in like the short like tiny bit of experience I've had at like legal clinics or things like that where we work with indigent clients primarily, like the kind of law that I do, it's not at all like really what Patrick does. Like I'm not seeing people on their worst day. Oftentimes I'm seeing them on very excited days because they're like, I want to file for this thing. It's like trademarks or patents, or like I want to assert that I've discovered or written or done something about this thing and I want to communicate it to everybody so that I own that thing. It's it's often a very excited day for those people. But oh man, like sometimes people either are just really bad at communicating their ideas, or I swear I've had at least a couple of them where it's like, I'm not sure whether you just didn't know better or you're just lying to me. And it's just really, really frustrating to work with. I've had people try to sneak one by me, and I did a patent search and was like, "Oh, you're trying to get me to file for something that you already patented 19 years ago. Cool. So you wanted me to defraud the patent office. I see how it is. It's okay. I see. I'm going to not work with you anymore now." But yeah, I don't have like any like great detailed stories that I can give, but yeah, I think those are that guy that I've come across so far.
Yeah, I mean, I get lied to all the time. It's just one of those things you have to tread carefully as a physician. You have to assume that the patient is telling you their honest truth when it comes to things like pain and subjective, symptoms and whatnot. You can't assume they're lying or making things up. When you have evidence to the contrary, it's the trust but verify. You operate within the bounds of, because sometimes patients don't even know. It's like, okay, do you have any other medical issues? Oh no, I'm healthy. And then you bring up, some outside documents, and they have kidney disease and heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes that's not being treated. And it's like, oh, okay, you're not lying. You just don't know. And so a lot of it is trust but verify.
Yeah.
In medicine, because obviously they're coming to you, and in medicine, and this is one of those things. I was talking to Nicole about this, that in the interview process for a lot of like careers, I feel like medicine is the only, and healthcare related fields like pharmacy and nursing, it's the only field where it's like you have to have this drive to heal. You have to have this compassion. And I agree. But I just can't see any other interview process like, business schools. You can literally go to business school and just like, I want to make a fuck ton of money. And the interview be like, yeah, me too. High five. And that's like, okay, you're in. And so like, just can't imagine, if you went to med school or you went to interview, you applied, you interviewed, and you said, well, yeah, I want a really, a respectable career. I want a job that challenges me in a field and area that I really like and pays well and supports my family. You'd get rejected so fast, because those are all very reasonable things, but those aren't the right reasons to go into medicine, which is, on some level I agree with, but it's just such an interesting facet. So to bring it back to what you were saying, Alex, yeah, I get lied to all the time, and sometimes I realize it. Very often I do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't catch it until later when all of a sudden, new information crops up. Pat, I'm assuming in your area of medicine, gosh, I'm already falling apart. In your law, do people lie to you a lot less? I mean, I can see in patent law why.
Every day.
Oh, okay. That's what I figured. I wasn't sure to what extreme it was.
Oh, it, especially in that initial phone call, I feel like when people are charged with a crime, they're trying to, put their best foot forward because they already feel shame and guilt of being in the position in the first place. And I always say the most dangerous person represents an innocent person. So I can verify like what prior criminal history that people have in the state of Minnesota. So sometimes if I feel like someone's not being like, they're being, what I like to say is less than truthful or less than honest about certain things, I then pull that information up on my computer and I start asking them about, their history, if they've gotten into trouble before. And if they aren't forthcoming about that, then I go, oh, so your date of birth is such and such, your middle name is this. And so you don't remember that, criminal sexual conduct where you had contact with a person between the ages of 13 and 15 and you were over the age of 18. You don't remember that case where you were convicted or pled guilty, it looks like. And then at that point, it's my conversation's over with them, because if they're going to be dishonest about something so serious, then they're not being truthful about the rest of it, which I've already suspected just based on people's tone of voice and the way they answer simple questions. Yeah, I mean, and if it was just the clients, but the attorneys are not always truthful.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had that guy or gal in this case where they're making an argument on the record and you interrupt them and say, "Oh, you know what? On that point, we're conceding that point. We're not going to argue that." And then that attorney goes, "Well, I don't know." Literally tries to do like a 180 on me on what her argument is. And I go, "Wait a second. This is what you're asking the court for relief on. We're agreeing to it. There's no reason to dispute or argue with it now. Move on to the next one, counselor." And then they still like want to argue with me over it. And then the judge goes, "Mr. Casey just said that they're agreeing to it. Mr. Casey, can you get your client to put something on the record that says you're agreeing to it?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. You heard what had been said. You understand that we have a right to have the judge make a decision." Yep. But you're agreeing that we're not going to argue over this point anymore." "Yep. Okay. Well, Miss So-and-so, continue on these other points." And they still continue to argue that. It's like, what bizarre world.
They had prepared arguments that they're not willing to let go. Like, you've won. You can stop. He's already dead.
Yeah, it sounds like they're too married to the script.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it. It's like, move on to the next one. It's like, be more. I mean, the judicial system is so inefficient, even now more than ever. I mean, why are we going to waste people's time over things that we can agree on? I don't understand. I'm not willing to accept the agreement. It's like, what?
But you won. I don't.
Yeah, they still want them to make the decision. It's like, how they're going to decide in your favor because we agreed.
I think we got time for one more story. Pat, do you have any final tidbits you want to add?
I mean, there's so many that fucking guy stories you could tell about going out in public. I mean, there's always that one guy that's driving down the road that's the most important person that has to be to that spot, or that other guy who's got to get past you as you're walking, towards the paint section of Home Depot, and they're trying to blow by you to get to wherever they need to be right that second. I just think that, that fucking guy's stories, have to do with just a perspective of self-importance that's way beyond reality, and don't recognize that we're all just really pretty much the same. I don't know.
And that's like the common theme, isn't it? It's just self-importance, and I am the main character, and just manifesting in various ways. I think, and this has been done before by many comedians, this isn't new material. I think the thing that bugs me, that really just grinds my gears, is people who eat in public places and just leave their food and debris everywhere. You just came to this establishment, spent money, used their service, used their product, and then just leave your filth everywhere? Who raised you? Who raised you to where you can't pick up that heavy paper cup or that crunched up ball of paper and put it in the trash that's next to the door you have to leave out of anyway? Anyways, that's just one that I had to throw out there. It's like a not work related. That fucking guy. I see it all the time. I worked in a deli, and those people, I would be taking their order at the cash register, be like, "You're gonna leave this fucking cup on the table, and I'm gonna have to throw it out. I know it. It's gonna be you." And often it was, because so many people, humans are bad. That's just my conclusion at the end of this episode.
I'm gonna push back on that. I'm gonna push back
that's
on
a
the
generalization.
Humans, yeah. I feel like we've painted a very bleak picture of our professions a little bit with all these dark stories, and I just would like to remind anybody listening that obviously these are the worst of the worst stories that we're trying to bring to you guys. Just really awful people or awful things. Most of the people in our profession are very kind individuals. Most of the people who I've worked with, in any kind of capacity, clients, plenty of my supervisors, they've all been very good people, and they don't necessarily get as much recognition or like stand out as much sometimes. Like the bad guys stick out, but
Yeah,
these
there's a reason
professional-
these are the stories we tell, is because they stand out so much.
And what gets lost in what I'm saying is because I deal with people on the worst stage of their lives, and then I practice family law. I think the most important thing to take away from our profession is, and at least I feel fortunate, the judges that I practice in front of are always very nice, patient, and kind people. And the people that work in the court system in the areas that I go to are the same. You know, the bailiffs, all of those people are just good human beings, and I miss them, and I miss being in court because that makes what I do more palatable because of those relationships and those people that I see and talk to about their kids and their lives and things that the goings on and the challenges they face or the joys that they have. And I haven't seen that in 2 years. So it's been a little bit tougher to do what I do because of that. But you're right, Alex, 100%. There are not every opposing counsel is like the one that I described earlier. Quite the contrary. Most of them I get along with quite well and have a great deal of respect for. Yeah, I don't lose sight about the fact that there are really, in a conversation of that fucking guy, these are the minority of the humans on the planet for the most part, not the majority.
Yeah, to piggyback on that a little more, I work with some wonderful people. I think in medicine, the general rule, there's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of your work is is caused by 20% of your patients. I don't have a lot of those patients. There's a reason that the stories that stand out, and I'm very lucky. I actually have a lot of very wonderful people I work with. Very, friendly. They say for every 9, bad patients, it takes one grateful, good, quote unquote, good patient. Somebody who's just genuinely, appreciative. That really makes it all worth it. And I actually have a significant number of those. And I love my job, and I love what I do, and I love the people I work with. So you're right, Alex. I jumped to a generalization more to just be funny, but
yeah, most people are fine. And you know what? I think we may have gone too far the other direction and been too wholesome, and we haven't really told enough jokes this episode, I feel like. So I'm just gonna fill the next 5 seconds with this. Dicks and butts, dicks and butts, and butts and dicks and dicks.
Well, I think you have to keep in mind that when you have me on this, that it is going to be serious because that's just my personality.
Well, yeah.
I'm more of the serious.
You hear his voice. You hear how he talks.
Yeah, and I'm the old guy on top of it, so I'm more jaded than you guys. You guys are young, just starting your professions, have a positive outlook on life.
Give us time.
And I've had life grind me down pretty hard sometimes, but I keep getting back up and keep doing it and do it with a smile. And there's better ways to deal with people like that than to respond the way that they want you to respond.
Right.
So,
well, on that note, I think I'm going to wrap this up. This was a great episode. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for joining us and tuning in. Please remember to subscribe, follow, whatever your essentially podcast device is. Episodes come out every week, and we will see you next Sunday. Until next week, take care.